This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Hi, welcome once again to The Clash, where we take a Christian worldview and allow it to clash into the culture around us. And by the time we're done, because of interviews, because of conversations, hopefully we come up with something that will help you, our audience, navigate life just a little bit better. My name's Jeff Dixon. I get to sit in this seat, but the guy sitting in this seat is Chris Whaley, also known as the Masked Saint. What do you say, Chris?
Man, every day is a holiday and every meal is a feast.
Well, look at there.
Yeah.
Well, you have a guest
Yes.
that is a friend of yours, and I'm not holding that against him, just so you know. And I have to work at that, but I'm not going to hold it against him. But why don't you introduce our guest and kind of roll us into what we're going to be talking about today?
Okay, well, I have known this guy since third grade. He is closer to me than a brother. I mean, I love this guy so much, and he's been a great help and influence on my life. And one of those things, you know, I never suspected it would be such a great help, but several years ago, he invited my wife and I to, it was a weekend seminar, and, you know, when he gets excited about stuff, and I have to sit there and smile and act like I really care about it. But on this particular one, you know, I was just dreading going, and it has to do with DiSC, D-I-S-C, which deals with temperaments. And my wife and I went, and it was the most awesome weekend I think I've ever spent in an environment like that, because I learned so much, and I saw how valuable this information would have been to me whenever I first became a pastor. Mm-hmm. Because, Jeff, you and I know that, you know, when I was in professional wrestling, my stress level was like that. Because I got my stress out every night getting tossed around by 300-pound men. But when you become a pastor, the stress level goes up exponentially. And so, you know, dealing with stress usually is because of the difficulty that we have dealing with people. Mm-hmm. And so I learned that, you know, that people have temperaments, and I'm gonna let my friend tell you that. First, let's welcome him. This is my friend, Mike Harper. Mike, welcome to The Clash.
Thanks, and I would like to say that you really aren't very good at acting like something's interesting to you.
Well, thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, Mike, I was about to say, man, all the people that know Chris now through the years are thinking to themselves, man, why didn't he hook up with Mike years and years and years ago? Because if that had made him a better pastor, right? I mean, we wouldn't be here on TV right now. So
Right.
Yeah. He says that living with my sarcasm and belittling him for years and years and years prepared him for the ministry.
Well, Mike, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to meet you. Let's let our guest kind of go on a journey with us. Let's say that you and I and everybody that's watching us, the thousands that are watching us right now, all pile into an elevator on the top floor of the Empire State Building. You have till we get to the bottom to explain to us in a way that we can understand it what DiSC is. So I guess I'm asking for the elevator speech. What is DiSC exactly? What are we talking about today?
It's how God wired us to view the world, okay. How we see things around us. We see it either favorable or unfavorable, and we either feel that we're more powerful, we can change the environment, or we're less powerful. And so we're a blend of those four, and we move around, but predominantly there's typically two of those areas that gives us energy, and the other two drains our energy. So we do not like to go into the other two. We love being in the ones that make us feel good.
Okay.
What are those 4 temperaments, Mike?
Well, it's called DiSC, D-I-S-C, and those just stand for some letters. Like for the D, it's dominant, demanding, directing. For the I, it's interacting, inspirational, influential. For the S, it's sweet, shy, supportive. And for the C, it's competent, calculating, and compliant. So those are just a few adjectives that kind of give you an idea of what it looks like.
Are there, when you said a minute ago that they're usually we function in 2 areas, I mean, are there like 2 apparent areas, I mean, we kind of all default to? Like if I'm a D, what else would I be?
You typically it's either, and remind me to say typically through this, sure, because I am a D and I tend to just say it is, but it isn't always is. Well, typically the one that's to the left or right of it, if you looked at it like a compass, north being D, I on the east, S on the south, and C on the west. Typically, we move over to that second temperament when we can't get our first temperament met.
Okay.
Trying to get the first temperament met. And let me throw this in there. The D, their emotional need is they want results.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the I wants approval.
Okay.
And the S wants serenity. And the C wants predictability.
Okay.
So, you know, we move around in those, but predominantly, you know, if I'm an I and I'm wanting approval, that's the salesman. He's the one that's the influencer. He's going to talk you into liking it.
Okay.
Even if you don't, he will talk you into it. Well, on the other side, the C, the one that wants predictability, they don't care if you like them or not.
Okay. Now, and so when you're an S, are you and they say, I like the compass idea. So the S then becomes the, is that the peacemaker of the group? Is that a peacemaker?
It is.
By individual?
It is.
Okay.
That's the well, peacekeeper typically.
Peacekeeper.
As we mature, we become a peacemaker. But
Okay.
because they want to avoid conflict for serenity purposes, they say what, you know, they may on the inside be saying no, but on the outside they're saying yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You know, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mike, but when we did that weekend, Jeff, my wife said after it was over, she said, for the first time in my life, I don't feel broken. Now, we've been married, this coming May will be 50 years. And I would say since we took that class, things have gotten a lot better because we understand each other a lot better. S's, I know this because my wife is a S. I mean, she is a big S. And they don't like conflict. And that's kind of my middle name is conflict, you know. So can you imagine what those first several years of marriage were like for her? But, you know, they like, as Mike said, they like serenity and they don't like conflict. They're very empathetic. And this, all the bells and whistles were going off as I took this because, you know, as a pastor, and if you have deacons in your church, it would be a great thing to have those guys take the temperament study to see what their temperament is. Because the big problem as a pastor, you know, in the past, when I had deacons, you're looking for leaders. And that's not what a deacon is. A deacon is what, Jeff?
Servant, yeah.
They're a servant.
Right, yeah.
They're supposed to be serving the church. And that's one of the problems when we have so much conflict in the church is because we've got people that are serving in areas that their temperament is not conducive for that service project, and especially when it comes to deacons, because if you've got a D as a deacon, you know, he's results oriented, he's wanting to get it all done and everything, and of course you've got an S in there, which you should have an S for a deacon so that, you know, they're empathetic and they can serve. It's just going to be clashing constantly. So I'm very thankful that I learned that my wife was an S because it's helped me to understand her. Now, I tend to be more C, would you say, Michael? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Can we move? Let's move around. Let's move around the disc a little bit and give us a little bit deeper dive as to what one is. Let's start with the S though, because I mean the takeaway from your encounter with your wife was, she said, first time I don't feel broken. Is it common for folks to feel broken if they're an S as they relate to everybody else?
Let me break it down to a different level too.
Okay.
The I and the S are relationally oriented.
Okay.
When we're in those modes, that's our relational mode.
Okay.
The D and the C are task oriented. So typically the task oriented people run the world. So they say what's right and they say what's wrong.
Okay.
They may call the relational people lazy. In reality, the task oriented people are relationally lazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we don't think of it as that way because they accomplish so much and they get things done and that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, how about telling us just real quickly, and we can do the biblical side on the other side of the break, but people today know some famous people. So give me a famous D, a famous I, a famous S, and a famous C.
Well, so we know that we have a dominant president now.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's directing everybody.
Yeah.
So the I is, there are a lot of the entertainers, the comedians, the I's love having fun. Excuse me. So any of the, from Sinbad, Dolly Parton, those outgoing relational people, that's the I.
Okay.
And the S, that's more of the subdued relational, person.
Like a Mother Teresa?
Yeah, or even a Gandhi, but they matured and become outgoing. Typically, S's do whatever they do for someone else. They won't protect themselves, but they will protect you.
Okay.
And their children and the people they love. That's their driving force, is to get serenity into your life also.
Okay.
The C's, that's the high-tech guys. Who's the Bill Gates?
Oh, sure.
That's a typical C.
Okay.
It's funny because the C's, that's where our logical side, our reasoning side. And if we had flawed information, we come up with flawed answers. But
okay, we're going to do some. I want to do that from a biblical standpoint. And after the break, cool. I want you to be thinking about it. In the Bible, can you name a D? Can you name an I, an S, a C, and tell us how you got that conclusion? So we need to take a break.
Yeah, we're going to take a break, Mike, because we are all about the shameless plug at our end. And so we're going to invite people to go through our store and buy our junk. But we'll be back right after that. And we're going to keep this conversation going, okay?
Thanks.
Okay. Chris, I was just thinking while we take a break here in the show.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could go somewhere and shop and get high-quality merchandise that would have a lasting impact? Wouldn't that be good?
I think that would be absolutely awesome.
Well, I've got a suggestion for you, because what is your favorite saying?
Don't tap out.
Look at that. How about a Don't Tap Out
smokes.
t-shirt? And look at the logo on the back.
What's on the back? The Clash.
That's one of my favorite shows.
It's on my top list too.
And people could go and buy this from our store. Now you say, how do you get to the store? Well, right now there's a QR code on the screen. If they use that QR code, they can go and they can buy. Name something. We'll see if they can buy it there. What do you want? What to buy?
Probably. I want to get a long sleeve hoodie.
You know what? You can get a long sleeve hoodie there.
Really?
Yeah. And you know what else? If you had a baby tomorrow, you could get Clash baby gear at that same store. Yep, you can get that. All of it's available at the Clash store. So if you haven't been to the Clash store, you're one of the few people in America that hasn't been there yet.
Yeah.
And so check it out. Buy our stuff. It makes us money. It makes us happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to the Clash store. Hey, it's me again, and I just wanted to take a moment and invite you to check something out. It doesn't cost you a dime, but I think that it's something you might really enjoy. The church at 434, where I'm the pastor, where Chris Whaley is on staff, we have an app, and that app is absolutely free. You can find it by going to the App Store for iPhones. Just type in the Church at 434, or go to Google Play for Android phones. Again, the Church at 434. And when you get there, you're going to find a number of resources that are designed just for you to encourage you in your spiritual growth, in your walk with Christ. There's going to be some things that will entertain you, that you'll laugh at, that will be fun. And you can also tap in and watch our worship services. You can see some of the films that we've made. You can see some of the activities that we've got. And you can connect to the ministry of the Church of 434, where Chris and I are a part of that on a weekly basis. And we would love for you to join us and become a part of that network with us. And so check out the Church at 434 app in the App Store or in Google Play, and you can visit with us there. Also, you can email us right through that app, and we'd love to hear from you. Just say, hey, I got the app, and I like it. If you get the app and you don't like it, we don't want to hear from you. But that's a whole different thing. Let's get back to The Clash.
Hey, welcome back to The Clash. We're here with my friend Mike Harper, who is an expert in DiSC, D-I-S-C. And Mike, tell our audience, how did you become involved in this? What drove you to become involved with learning about DiSC?
Well, when I was young, my two sons were diagnosed as bipolar. And so we spent 12 years in therapy every week, psychiatric therapy, $1 million, didn't resolve anything. So when the second son moved out at 19, he spent 2 years in the library. He said, I'm not mentally ill. I'm going to find out what this is about. And that he discovered DiSC on his own. And then he came back to me, and then we learned together, and we went and got certified together. But it's like both of those boys were high I, so they're seeking approval. And I'm a D-dad. I'm dominant, demanding, directing. I want them to be me instead of them be them. And God talks about that in the Bible. He says, raise them the way they should go, not the way you want them to go.
Right.
And so that was the beginning of change in our family. And now, years and years later, neither one of my sons are bipolar. They're functioning fine. There's, except for the emotional scars that I created that they've been healing through, they're what we call normal people.
So how can this be helpful, Mike? How can it be helpful to a person that owns a business? How can it be helpful, with relationships? If you're a teacher or whatever, how can it be helpful to know this?
Well, as you spoke about the fast pace and the slow pace, people, they speak the same way. There's some people speak slowly and there's some people speak quickly. And so you match their pace and that makes a connection right there. So if you're fast paced, slow down when you're talking to a slower paced person. If you're slow paced, pick it up. If you're trying to talk to a faster paced person, like the D is a bottom line. The I's love to tell a story. Chris is great at telling. He'll get over in I mode and start telling a story, and I'm over there snoring. I just need the bottom line. Give me the bottom line. I don't even know how to process. Give me the bottom line, then tell me the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about with a business? If somebody's got a business, would you recommend, when they're hiring an employee, would you recommend that they also give them the DiSC temperament study?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We had a family business that we were just hired to fill the position. Whatever came available, because the position was open, we put them in that position. And after taking this, we realized part of the jobs were talking to the customers, and part of the jobs was doing repairs and mechanical stuff. And so once we started putting the task-oriented people in the tasking position and the relational people in the people position, so much conflict went away. Customers became happier. Employees were much happier. Going back to that, what gives you energy and what drains your energy. So if you're relational and you are put into task all the time with no one to talk to around you, it just absolutely drains your energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
An example.
Well, let's take the DiSC and let's put it in the Bible for half a second. Off the top of your head, what characters or heroes of the faith land in which category?
Well, doing it like the compass, starting with a D, Paul was a D.
Sure.
He was dominant, he was directing, he was demanding. When you jump over to the I, that's Peter. Talking about it's the same as doing it to him. It took him several tries, but it's just like walking out on the water. He probably stepped out because this is going to be fun if I can get out here and pull this off. And then he got to thinking about it after he got out there, and it's like, oh, this ain't gonna work. John, he was the S. Okay. And it was kind of neat of all the, he was the only one that wasn't killed. I guess he was so likable, and they put him on the island, and he got to continue writing.
Sure.
And a couple of C's, Thomas was a C, he's like, yeah, I don't believe you, prove it to Jesus, about the crucifixion. And Moses was a C, and that really comes down to, we have strengths and we have struggles in any one of those. And there's no right or wrong temperament.
Sure.
God put it there, and we're not going to change it.
Right.
But one way, if we use it as a strength, like for me, I can dominate tasks, but I switched it over and misused it to dominate my sons. Now there's going to be trouble.
Right. Okay.
Now I've moved over into immaturity because I was not mature at the time. Yeah. So once we become mature, all these different traits that I call struggles, like avoiding conflict if you're an S, dominating people if you're a D, then it becomes, life becomes so much better.
Sure. So we're talking about this. So let's say, one of our viewers is thinking to themselves, well, I don't even know what to do then. How do we find out what we are? Where do we go? What do we do? What are those steps? What's it look like?
Well, one of the places that I got certified is called personalityinsights.com. And you can go on their website, and for around $15, you can take an assessment, and they'll give you a report.
Okay.
That will help you understand a lot of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And is the idea? Help me for my ignorance here. So if once I know what I am, then does that kind of give me the ability to look at you or Chris or Mark behind our camera over there and kind of get a ballpark of, oh, they must be this, so this is how I need to meet them, even though they haven't taken the DiSC assessment? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you'll get to, like Chris said, the traits, fast-paced or slower-paced. Mm. You'll get where you notice that in a person, okay. Which one they are, and that helps you with half of it. And then are they task-oriented or people-oriented, okay. Relationally oriented? That helps you with the second half of it, and that puts you in the ballpark right there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So in essence, this is a relationship strengthener, right? That helps you become that best version of what God has created you to be at home or at work or church or whatever environment we're in, right?
It is. I think, when God created Adam, I think he was looking back at having Lucifer, which I assume he created because he was in heaven.
Sure.
And because he gave him all this full power, he becomes so prideful. So I think this is my story. I can't back it up with scripture, but this is my story.
We do that all the time here.
I think when he created Adam, he's sitting there looking at him and he's going like, wait a minute. So then he put him to sleep and he took out half of him mm-hmm. and created the woman. And he said, now here's your opposites. You're emotionally opposite, you're mechanically opposite, you're mentally opposite. And I'm going to give you some instructions, and I want you to become one again. And because he knew if you didn't follow the instructions, you couldn't take over. Yeah. And if you did follow the instructions, you wouldn't want to take over. Yeah. So we are pre-wired to seek our opposite temperament for marriage.
Okay.
It's amazing how it's just, it blows my mind. We don't even know we're doing it.
Sure.
But we find our opposite temperament and marry them. Now, eventually, because we're attracted to them, eventually we start to attack because they're not like us, and we end up getting divorced. And then we marry someone else that's closer to our temperament. So, and that's so God can see what it's like to live with you.
Well, and my favorite part of the Adam and Eve story is after they get kicked out of the garden, you know, Cain and Abel are looking at the garden from a distance, and they look at Adam and say, "Dad, man, I sure would like to live somewhere like that." And Dad looks back and said, "Well, son, you could have until your mother ate us out of house and home." I mean, it's just kind of one of those $1 million. You can't live here anymore. Well, go ahead. I mean, I've been asking all the questions.
You know, I'm just always amazed. Periodically, Mike and I will go to lunch. Matter of fact, as we're filming this, tomorrow is his birthday. So hopefully next week sometime I'll be able to take him out for his birthday. But I'm always amazed whenever we do that. You know, I'm not in that thinking mode like Mike is, you know, always in that thinking mode. But we'll be sitting there and he'll say, this little server, she's an S, and that's why we're not being served as quickly as you would like. He would say that, you know, somebody like that. And or, you know, if you get a server who is a C, man, they're the I dotters and the T crossers. And boy, I mean, your glass is empty and they're there pouring it and all. So I'm just, no matter what we do, where we go, we usually end up talking about DiSC and the people around us. And then he uses it, you know, sarcastically on me, you know, when I get in C mode.
Well, sure, you know. As expected.
Yeah. But very quickly he can push me to D mode too.
Yeah, can he?
He can do that.
So ultimately then, all of us, as we think about where we might be on the DiSC assessment, whatever we are has got to be the best, right?
Whatever we are.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Whatever we are is awesome. Every one of us. We're all different like snowflakes.
Yeah.
And each one of them is for a reason, for a purpose.
Sure.
By design.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Well, what would you say, Mike? And we're getting ready to close up here, but just, you know, the average person sitting out there watching this program, if they haven't turned it off by now, what would, you know, well, you don't know. They might have been a little bored or whatever, but the average person sitting out there, why would you tell them to learn about this?
To improve the relationships.
Yeah.
To see where you're immature, to see what your struggles are, because we don't even recognize them. Other people recognize them and tell us, and we make excuses and reasons and blah, 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 because we don't know. You know, they should be like us. Everybody thinks we should be like, everybody should be like us. Everybody thinks that. The world would be a better place if we were all the same. And Dr. Rome that trained me, he said if we were all exactly the same, one of us would be unnecessary.
Oh, that's true.
That's right. Yeah. I guess we got to close it up, Jeff.
Well, we have to close up. I do have to correct something Chris said, though. We don't have an average viewer. Our viewers, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, as a D, they are way up here, and they are the best of the best of the best. Now, I mean, again, I don't know if they're going to vote for him for host of the year or not. But that's my thought. That's my thought on this whole thing. So.
Yeah, and he also, like, this may have bored some people to death. Thank you, Chris, for my opportunity.
All right, Mike, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to get out of here. Hey, again, if you would like to learn more about this, I'm going to have Mike's email address up there if you want to, you know, email him and ask him a question, and also the website that Mike mentioned, so that you can go there and take your assessment and see which temperament you are. So until then, God bless you, and don't tap out.